In a highly charged address to Congress on March 4, 2025, President Donald Trump reaffirmed his commitment to a transformative agenda for the nation, promising swift and unrelenting action on critical issues including the economy, immigration, and foreign policy. This first joint address of his second term was marked by an assertive tone and a clear delineation between his administration's initiatives and those of his predecessor Joe Biden. Trump opened his speech with a declaration that America is back, a statement that resonated strongly with Republican lawmakers who filled the chamber, responding with enthusiastic chants of USA, USA. In contrast, Democratic representatives remained largely silent, expressing their discontent through placards and visible dissent, particularly from Representative Al Green, who was ejected after shouting during the address. The juxtaposition highlighted the deepening partisan divide in American politics. The president's speech spanned a record-breaking 99 minutes, during which he outlined his administration's achievements and future goals. He claimed to have dismantled diversity and inclusion initiatives, stating emphatically, "Our country will be woke no longer." This remark epitomized his broader push to reshape the federal government's approach to social policies, a move that has sparked significant controversy. Trump's commitment to a hardline immigration policy was evident as he pledged to continue his efforts for a mass deportation strategy, asserting, "It turned out that all we really needed was a new president." He highlighted a significant drop in illegal border crossings, citing February 2025 as the lowest month on record for such encounters. Economic issues were front and center, with Trump promising to combat inflation and lower costs for American families. He positioned himself as a champion for working-class Americans, stating, "The people elected me to do the job and I am doing it." However, economic experts have expressed skepticism about the efficacy of his proposed tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, warning that these measures could exacerbate inflationary pressures. Throughout the speech, Trump praised his administration's efforts to streamline government operations, citing Elon Musk's newly established Department of Government Efficiency (DOGE). He claimed that this initiative had uncovered hundreds of billions of dollars in government fraud, although critics have pointed to a lack of substantiated evidence for such sweeping claims. Democratic leaders, including Michigan Senator Elissa Slotkin, responded critically to Trump's address, emphasizing the importance of responsible change. Slotkin remarked, "America wants change, but there's a responsible way to make change and a reckless way," underscoring the party's insistence on a more measured approach to governance. The president also addressed foreign policy, detailing a shift in the U.S. stance toward Ukraine, including a freeze on military assistance. He described ongoing discussions with Russian President Vladimir Putin, suggesting a possible path to peace, a claim that raised eyebrows given the complexities of the ongoing conflict. As Trump's address concluded, he proclaimed that the golden age of America has only just begun, a statement that encapsulated his vision for the future. This bold assertion, however, stands in stark contrast to the concerns voiced by many economists and political analysts regarding the potential consequences of his policies. Looking ahead, Trump's administration faces the formidable challenge of delivering on the ambitious promises made during his address while navigating an increasingly polarized political landscape, with Democrats poised to push back against his agenda. The coming months will likely test the resilience of his policies and the unity of the Republican Party as they work to implement a vision that they believe will restore American greatness. The implications of this speech extend beyond immediate policy debates as they signal the continuing evolution of American political dynamics in the face of shifting public sentiment and economic realities. In a pointed address to Congress on March 4, 2025, President Donald Trump reiterated his commitment to swift and unrelenting action across multiple policy fronts, including the economy, immigration, and foreign relations. However, his speech was marked by a series of claims that have since raised eyebrows and prompted fact-checking efforts from various media outlets. The Associated Press, CNN, and Al Jazeera, among others, scrutinized the accuracy of Trump's statements, revealing a pattern of exaggeration and misinformation. One of the most notable inaccuracies came when Trump claimed illegal border crossings last month were by far the lowest ever recorded. According to Trump, Border Patrol apprehended 8,326 individuals at the U.S.-Mexico border in February 2025. However, historical data indicates that the average number of border apprehensions was significantly lower during the 1960s, with a monthly average of just 1,752 arrests in 1961. While February 2025 did indeed see the lowest arrest total in decades, it is essential to note that previous years reflected even lower averages. Trump's assertions regarding immigration did not end there. He inflated the number of individuals who entered the U.S. illegally during the Biden administration, stating, "Over the past 4 years, 21 million people poured into the United States." This figure is misleading. U.S. Customs and Border Protection documented over 10.8 million arrests for illegal crossings from January 2021 through December 2024. Importantly, arrests do not equate to unique individuals, as many crossed the border multiple times due to pandemic-related asylum restrictions. On economic matters, Trump expressed confidence in the benefits of tariffs, claiming they would make America rich again. Yet economists largely disagree, arguing that such taxes on imports could hinder economic growth and inflate consumer prices. A recent analysis from the Yale University Budget Lab predicted that the tariffs imposed on Canada, Mexico, and China could increase inflation by 1 percentage point and reduce economic growth by 0.5 percentage point, costing the average household approximately $1,600 in disposable income. The president also made headlines with his comments on Social Security, declaring 4.7 million Social Security members from people aged 100 to 109 years old are receiving funds, while government databases may list these individuals. It does not confirm they are actually receiving benefits. Reports have indicated that a significant number of entries in the Social Security Administration's database are due to outdated software that fails to accurately reflect deceased individuals. Trump's narrative of inheriting an economic catastrophe from the previous administration was another point of contention. While he claimed the inflation rate was a nightmare, statistics show that inflation peaked at 9.1% under Biden, but the economy was not in dire straits upon Trump's inauguration. The unemployment rate had already decreased to 4% and economic growth was healthy at 2.8% in 2024, with real incomes steadily increasing. Additionally, Trump's reference to an electric vehicle mandate was inaccurate. No federal mandate had been instituted, rather, there was a non-binding goal set by the Biden administration for electric vehicles to constitute half of new car sales by 2030. Trump's executive order on his first day in office revoked this goal, further illustrating the misleading nature of his claims. In the realm of military recruitment, Trump stated that the U.S. Army had its best recruiting month in 15 years, attributing this success to his leadership. However, data shows that recruitment numbers had been consistently increasing prior to his presidency, bolstered by the introduction of programs designed to better prepare recruits. As these fact checks emerge, they highlight the importance of scrutinizing the statements made by public officials, particularly in high-stakes addresses that shape public perception. The implications of misinformation are significant, potentially swaying public opinion and influencing policy decisions. As Trump continues to assert his agenda, it remains crucial for the media and the public to demand accuracy and accountability. Future addresses and policy proposals will need to be examined closely as the political landscape evolves and key issues such as immigration, economic policy, and Social Security remain at the forefront of national debate. In a dramatic display of political theater, President Donald Trump delivered a combative address to Congress on Tuesday night, marking a pivotal moment in his second term. The speech, stretching over an hour and 40 minutes, was not just the longest in modern presidential history but a reflection of the deepening divisions within the American political landscape. As Trump touted what he characterized as unprecedented achievements in his administration's first 43 days, Democrats in the chamber responded with protests and visible discontent, underscoring the bitter schisms that continue to define U.S. politics. Trump's address followed a contentious period marked by significant policy shifts, including a temporary freeze on nearly $2 billion in foreign aid and sweeping tariffs that he imposed on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China. During the speech, he signaled a willingness to reset relations with Ukraine following a tumultuous Oval Office meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky, where he had previously threatened to abandon military support for the country. "Wouldn't that be beautiful?" Trump remarked, referencing the prospect of peace talks with Russia while simultaneously reinforcing his administration's aggressive stance on tariffs and trade. The president's rhetoric was bold and unapologetic. He declared, "We have accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplish in 4 years." This proclamation was met with skepticism from many, including Democratic lawmakers who protested throughout the evening, with Representative Al Green being ejected for heckling. The discord in the chamber was palpable, with Democrats holding signs that read "Save Medicaid" and "Musk steals," while Republican members enthusiastically chanted "USA" in support of the president. Trump's focus on tariffs, a contentious issue among economists and business leaders, was emblematic of his broader agenda to reshape U.S. trade policy. He dismissed early market reactions to his tariffs as mere disturbances, asserting that the U.S. would retaliate against countries that impose tariffs on American goods. His administration's aggressive trade posture has raised concerns about economic repercussions and the potential for escalating trade wars. While Trump claimed to be addressing pressing national issues, critics noted the speech lacked substantive new policy proposals. Instead, it was filled with familiar grievances against the Biden administration, whom he labeled the worst president in American history, and a reiteration of his administration's goals. The absence of a clear agenda for the future left many observers questioning the direction of his presidency and the potential for bipartisan cooperation. Responses from the public varied widely, showcasing the polarized sentiments that have emerged in the wake of Trump's return to the political forefront. Some voters expressed a sense of hope and empowerment in his business-minded approach, while others voiced concern about the divisive nature of his rhetoric and the implications of his policies, particularly regarding tariffs and immigration. In a notable moment, Trump acknowledged young guests in the audience, including a 13-year-old boy with cancer, which momentarily softened the combative tone of his speech. This glimpse of empathy, however, was quickly overshadowed by his attacks on Democrats and assertions of a government rife with waste and inefficiency, particularly targeting programs related to social equity and international aid. As the political landscape continues to evolve, the implications of Trump's address are likely to reverberate through Congress and the nation. With the midterm elections on the horizon, both parties face the challenge of navigating an increasingly divided electorate. Democrats struggling to unify their message in opposition to Trump will need to articulate a compelling vision to counter the president's combative agenda, while Republicans must reckon with the potential fallout from Trump's trade policies and their impact on key constituencies. Looking ahead, the next steps for the Trump administration will be closely watched as the president seeks to implement his ambitious agenda amid rising tensions both domestically and internationally. The outcomes of ongoing negotiations, particularly with Ukraine and regarding trade with major partners, will be critical in shaping the narrative of his presidency and the future political landscape of the country. In a bold economic maneuver, President Donald Trump has recently intensified his trade policies by imposing new tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada while doubling existing tariffs on Chinese goods. This move, which Trump views as a means to bolster U.S. manufacturing and rectify trade imbalances, has raised concerns about the potential for a global trade war and its impact on consumer prices. Tariffs, essentially taxes levied on imported goods, are designed to protect domestic industries by making foreign products more expensive. For instance, a 20% tariff on a Chinese product priced at $10 would result in an additional cost of $2, which companies may choose to pass on to consumers. Historically, the U.S. has maintained lower tariffs compared to other nations. But Trump's recent policies could lead to a significant and sudden increase in these tax rates, ultimately affecting what consumers pay at checkout. The rationale behind Trump's tariffs is multifaceted. The administration believes that imposing these taxes will not only protect American jobs but also increase tax revenue and stimulate economic growth. Notably, goods from China, Mexico, and Canada accounted for over 40% of U.S. imports in 2024. The White House has articulated that these tariffs are part of a broader strategy to hold these countries accountable for illegal immigration issues and the influx of fentanyl, a potent drug linked to a growing number of overdose deaths in the U.S. As the tariffs have taken effect, immediate retaliatory actions from Canada and China have ensued. Canada has introduced 25% tariffs on a wide array of U.S. products, while China has responded with a mix of tariffs on U.S. agricultural goods and restrictions on American technology and aviation companies. This tit-for-tat escalation raises the specter of a protracted trade conflict, with China's foreign ministry warning that it would respond to the bitter end if the U.S. continues down this path. The implications of these tariffs extend beyond international relations. Analysts predict that they could have a pronounced effect on domestic prices. According to estimates from the Federal Reserve of Atlanta, the combination of tariffs from Mexico and Canada alongside the increased levies on Chinese imports might raise consumer prices by as much as 1.63%. A particular area of concern is the automotive industry, where financial analysts warn that the average price of a car could increase by up to $3,000 due to elevated costs for imported parts. Moreover, the imposition of these tariffs has sparked fears of inflationary pressures. Predictions suggest that annual inflation rates could climb from the current 2.9% to as high as 4%. This escalation in prices could further complicate the already delicate economic recovery, especially in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. In response to these developments, Canadian officials have criticized the tariffs as totally unjustified and signaled their intent to retaliate, further potentially restricting U.S. access to Canadian energy supplies. Meanwhile, in Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum has expressed that the U.S. tariffs lack justification, asserting that Mexico is committed to addressing drug trafficking issues. As the situation evolves, business leaders and economists alike are closely monitoring the potential fallout. Some experts suggest that while certain sectors may initially benefit from the tariffs, the broader economic repercussions could prove detrimental, leading to a slowdown in growth and increased prices for consumers. Looking ahead, the future of U.S. trade policy remains uncertain. With international tensions rising and domestic economic implications at stake, the coming months will be crucial in determining whether Trump's tariff strategy will achieve its intended goals or instead foster deeper economic turmoil. As stakeholders brace for the potential impacts, the global trade landscape may be on the cusp of transformative change. In a rapidly changing global landscape marked by shifting alliances and strategic recalibrations, recent developments within the U.S. military and defense sectors reflect a complex interplay of international relations and national interests. President Donald Trump's administration has recently highlighted an uptick in American military recruitment, which officials suggest will bolster the nation's shipbuilding capabilities and defense infrastructure. The Department of Defense has noted that increased recruitment efforts are essential not only for personnel readiness but also for enhancing the U.S. shipbuilding industry, a crucial component of national security. Against this backdrop, the Philippines has expressed renewed confidence in its defense ties with the United States. Following the restoration of approximately $400 million in military assistance that had been suspended during Trump's earlier foreign aid freeze, Philippine Defense Minister Gilberto Teodoro Jr. remarked that this funding is the best proof of the enduring relationship between Washington and Manila. Both nations share a common adversary in China, which has been increasingly assertive in the South China Sea, a region vital to both countries' strategic interests. As tensions escalate, the Philippines is looking to deepen its military cooperation with the U.S., including potentially acquiring advanced weaponry like the Typhoon missile system. However, uncertainty looms over U.S. foreign policy, particularly concerning Trump's willingness to maintain traditional alliances. Analysts caution that the unpredictable nature of the administration could lead to a re-evaluation of commitments, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. Former Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio has raised alarms about the Philippines' need to prepare for a scenario in which the U.S. withdraws its support from the contentious South China Sea, an outcome that could embolden China's territorial ambitions. Meanwhile, the U.S. defense industry faces its own set of challenges. According to a recent analysis, the domestic defense sector is experiencing a downturn, with stocks of leading U.S. defense contractors falling while European counterparts see significant gains. Since Trump's inauguration, shares of major U.S. defense firms have dropped by an average of 4%, in stark contrast to a nearly 40% rise among European defense stocks. This shift is largely attributed to a perception that U.S. security guarantees, historically a critical factor in international arms sales, are becoming less reliable. The ramifications of this shift are profound. As European nations ramp up their military spending in response to threats from Russia and elsewhere, they are increasingly likely to turn to their own defense industries rather than relying on American suppliers. Countries like Poland and the United Kingdom have announced plans to significantly boost their defense budgets, further complicating the landscape for U.S. defense manufacturers who may find themselves sidelined. Furthermore, Trump's recent confrontational stance towards Ukraine has sent ripples through the defense community, with many allies questioning the reliability of U.S. support. This situation poses a dual threat. Not only could it undermine U.S. arms sales, but it also risks creating a vacuum that adversaries like China could exploit. U.S. defense analysts are concerned that a lack of firm commitments from Washington may lead allied nations to diversify their military partnerships, which could ultimately diminish American influence on the global stage. As the geopolitical chessboard evolves, the implications of these developments are still unfolding. The Biden administration, facing the task of reinforcing traditional alliances while addressing emerging threats, must navigate the complexities of a shifting defense landscape. The future of U.S. military readiness and its global standing in defense matters will depend on how effectively it can balance recruitment, domestic manufacturing, and international partnerships in the years to come. The coming months will be critical as the administration reassesses its strategies and engages with both allies and adversaries in an increasingly multipolar world. In a surprising twist of royal diplomacy, King Charles III has stepped into the international spotlight, hosting a series of high-profile meetings that underscore the evolving role of the British monarchy in global affairs. This week, as the king welcomed both Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to his Sandringham estate, he also extended an invitation to former President Donald Trump for a rare second state visit, weaving a complex tapestry of international relations that highlights the monarchy's quiet yet impactful influence. The backdrop to these meetings is a tumultuous political landscape marked by President Trump's contentious rhetoric regarding Ukraine. Just a day after his cordial meeting with Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Washington, Trump publicly chastised Zelensky during a press conference, leading to a backlash in Britain, where some lawmakers have called for a re-evaluation of the state visit. The Daily Mail, among other outlets, has urged the government to rescind Trump's invitation, framing it as a necessary stance of solidarity with Ukraine amidst the ongoing conflict. Despite the political tension, King Charles's actions have portrayed a subtle yet strategic form of diplomacy. His warm reception of Zelensky at Sandringham, where they shared tea and engaged in undisclosed discussions, served as a counterbalance to the heated exchanges between Trump and Zelensky. "It's been a really interesting week in British and royal diplomacy," remarked Ed Owens, a royal historian. He emphasized how the royal family has become a secret weapon in Britain's diplomatic arsenal as the king's interactions with both Trump and Zelensky play into larger geopolitical narratives. The symbolism of Charles hosting leaders from opposing sides of the political spectrum is not lost on observers. While the king's role remains apolitical, his engagements are laden with significance. Trudeau, whose country has been subjected to American tariffs and is often referred to dismissively by Trump, found a receptive audience in Charles. The Prime Minister noted their discussions focused on matters of importance to Canadians, indirectly reaffirming Canada's sovereignty in the face of U.S. pressures. However, the delicate nature of these diplomatic interactions raises questions about the monarchy's future role in global politics. With King Charles being more politically attuned than his late mother Queen Elizabeth II, there is a growing concern among royal watchers that the monarchy could be overextended if it strays too far into political waters. Critics argue that while the king's intentions may be noble, his involvement in contentious issues could undermine the royal family's historically neutral stance. The king's visit to the HMS Prince of Wales, where he engaged with sailors preparing for a significant deployment to the Indo-Pacific, further underscores the monarchy's alignment with the British government's military strategies. Your deployment in the next month comes amidst new challenges in an ever-changing and more unpredictable world, Charles told the crew, highlighting the monarchy's support for military readiness as geopolitical tensions rise globally. As the world watches the unfolding diplomatic drama, the implications of King Charles's growing role are significant. His ability to navigate these complex relationships could either solidify the monarchy's relevance in contemporary politics or risk entangling it in the fractious political landscape. The road ahead remains uncertain, particularly as the potential for Trump's state visit hangs in the balance, contingent on the evolving dynamics between the U.S. and its allies. In conclusion, King Charles III's recent engagements reveal a monarchy increasingly willing to step into the fray of international diplomacy as geopolitical tensions continue to rise. The king's role may evolve further, potentially redefining the influence of the British crown in global affairs. The coming months will be critical in determining how effectively the monarchy can maintain its traditional apolitical stance while also engaging meaningfully in the political narratives of our time.